Warning. The following is extremely addictive content. The original Savage podcast may cause increased levels of success, happiness, and completely transform your life. You've been warned.
Welcome back, everybody. It is another episode of the original Savage podcast. And this one, just like every other one, it's about to be fire. That's right. Get the pen and paper, the notebooks out. Gonna have to take some notes. This guy, I've been lucky enough to call a friend for the last few years, and I know that this episode is going to be packed full of insight. He might be soft-spoken, and I'm pretty sure his family's going to be shocked when they hear he's on a podcast because they think he doesn't talk any. So without further ado, Cam, why don't you introduce yourself, man?
I appreciate it, Josh. Cameron Graham. I'm in Maine. Then been in the financial advisor in the industry for a couple of years now. Graduated a few years ago. Played 5 years of college baseball as a starting pitcher in my area, and then also do some coaching on the side as well.
Yeah, perfect, man. That's that's kind of the thing that we've had here as a theme, is that transition from what is it like to take like high level athletics and transition it into business, or transition it into the professional world of some kind. Because I do think that there's so much alignment there. And I mean, I've said this on other podcasts, there's some companies that only hire ex-athletes because they know that they kind of have that stuff built in. So I'll go ahead and jump into like the one question I ask everybody. And in your opinion, what is that like one thing that somebody can change or somebody can work on to take their performance from where they're at right now to that elite level?
Probably say the grind behind everything, the work. That's really all that, that's what it comes down to is, how bad do you want it? How bad are you willing to kind of work for where you want to get to, where you want to get to go? And then it's just continuing to, chip away through that and build upon that. Sports,
I think
anything really. Because even going from like, going from playing baseball your whole life, that's the only thing you know. You play college baseball, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's done. That's an adjustment. I think every athlete goes through that. Like the sport you played is almost your identity, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So where do we go from here? And I think really putting that work that you're used to in sports and putting that towards your next career is kind of what kind of pushes you farther and gets you to where you want to be. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that the grind though sometimes gets mixed up with just doing something, right? Yeah. It's got to be proper. And I think that that's where the athlete understands, and maybe the common person gets lost, is in that, what am I working on? Because and this happens to all of us because we all have egos. But what happens a lot of the time, and I battle this now with my 10-year-old, and you know that, because we talk about it all the time, but it's people want to practice what they're good at and not practice what they're bad at.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to be an elite performer, your weakness has to be better than other people's strength. And then your strengths are what makes you elite, right? If the weakest part of your
doing things you want to do, right?
And it's easy because that's our ego kicking in. It's like, oh, I'm good at this. Yeah, let's keep doing this. I'm good at this. I'm good at this. Whereas when we do things that are tough. So I just went through this last night with my son, and it was on an academic standard. Like, not that he has any issues academically. Like, he's typically straight A's, maybe a B now and then. But as soon as there's something that's a little bit hard, he just doesn't try.
Yeah.
He's so used to things being simple, he just doesn't try. He is so used to it being the easiest thing in the world that when it takes a little bit of effort, he's like, not doing it.
Nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it, right? And it's just a microcosm of what we do as adults. Like, because that's how it is as adults. We consciously avoid the difficult. right? Like we don't want to go towards that difficult decision. We don't want to go towards that difficult transition period in our life. Like, oh man, I've always wanted to open a business. But I've got the safety of this 9, right? And we're scared to take that jump. But we'll talk about it forever. And we'll talk about, oh, well, if I would have done that, yeah, I would have been successful at it. Well, we don't know because you never took the jump. And more than likely, if you're scared to take that jump, then you wouldn't have been successful at it because you would have done everything scared in. But that's one of those things is like that gets lost in that word grind is you've got to do all the work. Not just work.
You gotta do the work you don't want to do, and there's an aspect to it as well. You kind of got to bet on yourself within what you're doing. Bet on yourself and do the stuff that nobody else wants to do.
Yeah, that unwavering confidence is what it is. Like you have to have confidence in yourself.
You know, it goes right back to athletics. I think that's why you see a lot of even kind of athletes that are still playing right now. Like they're doing a bunch of other stuff now. I know you see them streaming, you see them doing podcasts, brands, all this stuff now. And I think that kind of even goes back to, you know, once sports are over, they have something to do, but it's also that kind of, you know, that confidence of I'm going to make it happen no matter what anyway. So just, you know, you put the grind in, you do what other people might not be comfortable with doing, and you just run from there.
Well, I think that brings up a good point that I don't know that I've even brought up, but it's that definition of success looks different for everybody, right? And now in athletics or professional athletics, people aren't as worried. There's some obviously that are, but most of them are not as worried about the numbers on the contract. They'll take a lower contract because it allows them to do certain other things. Maybe it allows them to open another business that they want to open, or it puts them in another city. Like I know, and people can talk all they want about LeBron, but LeBron, when he went to L.A., he said he went to L.A. because of the business opportunities that were going to surround him in L.A. Not because he wanted to play for the Lakers necessarily or whatever. He wanted to be in L.A. because of business opportunities, because he has an executive production company or whatever it is, a production company, and he wanted to be in L.A. for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you see a lot of, especially now, a lot of athletes doing a whole bunch of other stuff outside rather than, just playing,
right.
Which is good. I mean, it's good to see because before, athletes after they were done were going broke all the time, and now I think that's kind of starting to flip a little bit as people get a little bit smarter. They start thinking about these other stuff like we've kind of talked about, and just kind of putting the work into. The bulk of stuff is obviously getting better at what they do, but also kind of having some of this, I don't know what to call it, but kind of, side gigs of other ways to earn money and also other ways to help them once they're actually, once they're done. Because an athlete's career is, a max of 16, 17, maybe 20 years. If you play 20 years, then congratulations. Like not many people play 20. So you're probably, I don't know what the average would be, but you're talking 10.
Well, like highly
the average NFL career and stuff like that is like 3 years. But I'm saying if you're like you're
highly,
you're saying you're a vet 10 to 15 years, and then then what?
The definition of a vet in NFL, I think, is 7 years. I think once you get 7 years, you're like considered a veteran. At that point. So, but one of the things when you were just talking, and you didn't say it, but one of the things that I think that even I haven't even brought this up, but I think one of the things that makes athletes able to perform well in the business and professional world is the ability to transition from day to day between a leadership role and a team player.
Yep.
Right. And that's something in the professional world, that ability to shift your personality and shift your mindset is something that so many people lack because, again, this ego situation where, and we said you got to have that unwavering confidence, believe in yourself, whatever, right? Like there is that for sure. But again, the ego side, when it comes from a place of self-consciousness, of like, oh, I've got to be loud, I've got to be boisterous, I've got to show I'm the leader so everybody thinks that I'm great at this, right? When it comes from that aspect, the same thing that where we don't want to do what's hard. We only want to do the drills we're good at. We only want to do the work that we're good at because we want to show how good we are. We don't want anybody to ever see us do something we struggle at, right? That's a self-consciousness, self-esteem, whatever the right word is. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. That we have. That's something we have inside of us. That's the ego. The ego is to help that side of it. The confidence, in my opinion, confidence is that unspoken belief, right? It's the way you carry yourself. It's that unspoken belief that you're going to be able to figure it out. No matter what situation you put yourself in, you're going to be able to figure it out. Yeah. Ego is telling somebody, I'm great at this. Hey, watch me do this. Look, watch how good I am. That's the ego side, right? And it's being able to get rid of the ego, live in that confidence zone, and be able to shift where you're at between leader and team player and backup and role player and all of these different things that athletes have been able to do throughout their career.
Yeah, I think when you look at, you look at any successful team, everybody understands their role, no matter if they're, the go-to guy, they're the, like what you said, the backup, kind of the guy that does all the work. Nobody even sees it. Every successful team has guys that you don't really hear about, but they're just grinders. But then you have the star player, you have a mix of everybody, and the best teams, everybody understands their role, and does their role to the best of their ability. And the same thing, applies into the workforce. As far as knowing your role, knowing what needs to be done, knowing what you need to do, what you need to work on, to push whatever the company, whatever you're doing towards that ultimate goal of success. It kind of goes hand in hand with sports and, anything outside.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that is overlooked, right? Even if you're a solopreneur, right? Like you're a one-man band, there's times where you have to be this personality. You've got to be the face of the company, yada, yada, yada. But then there's other times where you've got to sit back and you've got to be the graphic designer, team player, role player, the post up on social media or whatever.
Yeah, I think too, like understanding that you can't do it by yourself, that kind of comes into play and mixes well within both as well. It takes a whole team effort. So I think also understanding that the outside kind of in the business world too, it's not just, you need other people that might be better at you in some areas by your side to kind of help you reach that ultimate goal. Same way in sports. Like, it's a whole team, effort. You got the star player, but without the other guys, the role players there, it's just not going to work out. Same way in the business world. You got to have people, connections, kind of within your inner circle that can handle some different things that you might not be good at. And it kind of takes you back because you have to, back to that confidence thing. You kind of have to admit that you might not be good in this area. But just kind of being aware of that is a big thing too. And just having that circle around you to help push you towards, where you want to get to.
Well, yeah, I've talked about that forever. Is like the coaching side of things is like, if you look at a professional athlete, they're going to have 6 or 7 coaches outside of the team. Yeah. They're going to have a strength coach, a dietitian, or a nutritionist, whatever you want to call it, or whatever that person might call themselves. They're going to have a mental coach. They're going to have a financial advisor. They're going to have a publicist. They're going to have an agent. I mean, they've got a team of people around them to make them who they are, to make them successful in the way they're at. Same thing with successful business people. Right, they form a board of directors to bounce ideas off of. They've got this group of 10 people around them at all times that when they want to go and do something, they're bouncing ideas. Hey, is this a good idea? Hey, is this a good idea? What direction should we go? Here or there, whatever. And that's what gets lost, I think, on that that person is at this plateau. A lot of the time they're at this plateau of they're successful compared to where they were or where they've been. They feel like they're, really good, and they feel like they've got a ton of potential. They just feel like they can't break, right? Like, I've got so much inside of me. And that's what my specialization is in the coaching, performance coaching world, is that plateau, getting you from that plateau of success to really what your peak be. And what it comes down to is the people around you and understanding the clarity, the simplification, making what can only you do, right? Like, you got a bat on the wall, but you were a pitcher, right? Like, that bat needs to stay on the wall and not go in your hands because you were a pitcher and you were.
Yeah, I could swing it. Nobody else knows that, but I do.
But, that's what it is, right? You've got to be able to say, hey, what is it that I do that's special? We got to bottle that secret sauce. When you look at the highest achievers, whether it's business world, whether it's athletically, what is it that you are so good at? If you look at, in the athletic world, you look at players that will go from one team to another, and they're bad, and then all of a sudden they have a breakout year somewhere.
Yeah.
It's because the team that's around them changed. The people around them, the ecosystem changed around them, and they finally were able to put their secret sauce on that, and that's what got them from just this plateau of being mediocre. Now, mediocre within the NFL or within the baseball is different, but for them, mediocre to actually being at that peak level.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you got to have people around you to lift you up and take it basically to a new level. You have to. I don't think if you ask any, there's always going to be that one person that says they did it by themselves, but a majority of people are going to, have some sort of team around them, people that they've gone to help them get to get to where they are. You said everybody's idea of success is different, but everybody, who has some level of success, whatever it looks like, has had people that they've gone to, people that they've surrounded themselves that has gotten to where they're at. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that for for that level where you're, whether you start a business, whether you're in sales and you just had your first $100,000 year in sales or whatever it might be, right? A lot of us then get scared, and that's the problem. We get scared. We don't want to spend money because we're like, well, I just made all this money. Why do I spend it? But you have to buy your time back. And then you're able to put yourself in another category because, one of the biggest things for athletes is recovery, right? Ice baths and saunas and hot tubs and massages and stretching and all this stuff. It's all about recovery so that you can get back to your peak performance faster.
You think?
Well, if you're a salesperson and you don't have any time and you're just, let's say that you're booking 25 meetings a week, and for you, that is literally going from 9 to 5 every single day, no rest, no breaks, no lunch, no snacks, whatever it might be, and you're just hustling from 9 to 5 every single day, nothing, to run these 25 appointments. And you want to be able to take your performance to the next level. Well, you can't, because you're maxed out right now. You're maxed out. So the only way to go to the next level is to buy some time. Find a way to go to 25 meetings a week that doesn't take you 9, or 20 meetings a week, but those 20 meetings a week are you're closing 80% instead of 50, or whatever it might be. Set up some sort of system to make the quality of your time being spent better. Not only are you going to feel better, but you're going to perform better because you're going to be rested. You're going to be mentally sharper whenever you go into that that time to perform. When it's time to perform, you are able to take the time, breathe, reset, and then do what you're supposed to do. We've all been in that situation where we're running late for an appointment. We're running late for a game. We're running late for something, right? And we get there and we're out of breath and we're all flustered and struggling. And then, oh, why didn't I close that one? Why didn't I perform like I expected to? Because you didn't have time to set yourself up the way you normally set.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
how to buy the time back.
It's how to, and that goes back to the team aspect of it and recognizing that you can't do it by yourself. You got to have that Pippin next to you, like Jordan. You got to have something like that. Have to. You gotta have a team around you to help you with other areas and just from a level of support too. Kind of got to have that support team behind you to, help you get where you want to be.
For sure. When you let's change gears a little bit. When you first went into that transition from the college athlete to working into the professional career, I know you said you're in finance now. Not just that you said it, but I know it. But that transition, what was that first big hurdle you had to get over from a mental standpoint of how did you shift gears and take kind of some of that same grind mentality of baseball into the grind mentality? What kind of things did you have to rearrange to make that happen?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. Because like I said, you go through it's almost like an identity crisis.
Right.
You go from being the guy to now you're, especially myself, just, you come out of college to now you're your last year of college, you're the guy but you're also the oldest guy there. To now it's well, you're 25, you got the whole rest of your life ahead of you. So now that you're the youngest guy. So now when you talk to people, it's oh, maybe he's too young, he doesn't know anything, stuff like that. So it just it's just recognizing that and recognizing that, yes, you're young. It's, that kind of that transition of, yeah, you're young, you might not know everything, but also just kind of putting the work into, if you don't know something, to find it. Whether it's getting back to somebody as soon as you can with an answer, just working at that grind phase of, building your knowledge and then really taking it from there and just keep on building as situations happen, as things come up. And then just, learn as you go, but also surrounding yourself with other people who have been doing it forever, and learning from them. And it's just, you're constantly learning every day. And it kind of makes that transition a little bit easier, because, like I said, you go from being the guy to now nobody knows who the heck you are. So it's just building, making connections with people, and just continue to expand on, what you're chasing, what you're after, and doing the best that you can for, the people that you're working with. And like I said, you might not know everything, but just continuing to learn as you go and being open to that, I think is one of the biggest things.
It's, so it's a journey from confidence, right? And maybe a little bit of ego to being humbled.
Completely humble yourself, correct.
But it's still humble confidence, because you still have to have that belief in yourself. Because without that belief in yourself, what are you working, right? That grind, if you're grinding, you have to believe that it's going to do something. Just grinding on its own is not going to do anything for you. If you're not grinding with a purpose, right? If you're not working towards a goal, if you don't believe in where you're going, you're going to give up.
You're getting lost. You got no roadmap. You're ending up in the woods.
Yeah. It's that thing where it's you just have to understand that you're going to make it. You're going to do it. You're going to make it. You understand that belief in yourself, that confidence, right? That confidence is still there, but you have to humble yourself. You have to it's that humble confidence that I'm going to make it, but right now it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a little rocky, but just having, stay in the course, continue to have that confidence. And like I said, just continuing to learn, keep the confidence, and just build through it, really.
Well, I'm famous for coming up with analogies on the spot, but, you said a little rocky, and it makes me laugh because the first thing I thought about was, well, a gravel road's rocky, but so is Mount Everest. It's rocky as well, but they're rocky in completely different ways.
Yeah.
Right? So one's a climb and one's a straight path, or it could be curvy, but, they're both rocky. But the rocks are a hell of a lot bigger on Everest.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever you think you're going through that's rocky right now, like, the more successful you get, the bigger them fucking rocks are getting.
Yeah.
Them rocks are only going to get bigger.
There's more money, more problems. That's exactly what that is.
It's bigger rocks, man. It's bigger rocks, right? It's
timing's never going to be right. The situation's never going to be perfect. It's just how are you going to adjust and adapt and get through it?
For sure, right? Like, you don't even think of the journey of, like, baseball, right? It's, let's say you're a pitcher and you're pitching in Little League, like, and you have a bad outing. Okay, well, you might not pitch next game because you had a bad outing. Coach wants to sit you for a little bit, or you might come out of that game, right? And it's the end of the world. That's a little rock. Sit in one game.
Yeah.
When you get to the majors and you have a bad outing, you might lose a contract. You might lose millions of dollars. You might blow out an arm. Like, that's a lot bigger rock.
And I think too, like, I'm probably a little biased with baseball, but I would say baseball players probably go through the most adversity out of any other sport. I mean, that's probably a bold statement, but I mean, you look at you hit 3 out of 10 and you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
You're failing 7 times. You look at a pitcher, I mean, guys have phenomenal years, and then the next year they could just have a 5 ERA and be, they're just not as good, and then the next year they're back to where they were. It's a game. Baseball is 100% a game of failure, and I think that translates well into life after sports. Just knowing how to deal with that and how you're going to get through it, working through it, having the confidence that you're going to get through it, and just kind of staying persistent with everything.
Yeah, it's just bigger rocks. I'm just going to keep saying that, by the way. I'm just
Bigger.
It's my tag.
I like that.
That's my tagline for this episode is bigger rocks. Brought to you by bigger rock. But yeah, dude, it's man, like you said, baseball prepares you to fail, and I think that's what life is supposed to do.
I mean, even basketball, like you shoot 40%, you're still missing 6 times.
Yeah.
But
I think here's the difference though. In basketball, when they're practicing, they don't miss 6 times.
Yeah,
they miss 6 times like with defense.
Yeah.
It don't matter if it's practice or if it's game time. When you're hitting a 85-mile-an-hour slider, you're still missing.
Yeah.
7 times out of 10.
Right. You're seeing 103. You're I don't know if you ever get used to that.
I don't think it slows down. They talk about the NFL, like it slows down as you get older, like as you get experience. 103 doesn't slow down.
I don't think 103 slows down. No.
Or like an 85-mile-an-hour slider, or that ridiculous sinker that had like 21 inches of break the other day at like 95 or some crazy stuff.
That doesn't really change.
No, baseball breaking physics.
You might get a little more comfortable in the box, but it's still coming in.
Exactly. And so, that's what, like you said, that adversity prepares you for a sales career or just a career in general, whether it's acting. I mean, it can be acting. Actors all say, you got to be prepared to hear no. Singers, you got to be prepared to hear no, right? Hearing no at an early age and a lot, whether it's from a parent or from a coach or from whatever, wherever it's coming from, like, that's not a bad thing.
No.
Because you still have to, again, you have to humble yourself and you have to have confidence. Humble confidence is one of those things like, cool, tell me no, I'm going to prove you wrong. No, you're not going to say that to their face.
Yeah. But in the back of your head, you're thinking of it the whole time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, whenever he gets home, I'm sure, he can tell you, Lil Man got more confidence than anybody ever seen. And it's because he puts in the work. Like for him, the work creates the confidence because he knows he outworks other people. It creates the confidence for him. And so when he pitches and when he's on the mound, when he throws a strike and the umpire doesn't call it, you can see it in his face. You are kidding me. Like you can see him arguing in his mind. He's not arguing to the guy's face, but you can see him in his mind like, no, that was it. That was it. You know what I mean? It's that work builds the confidence.
Yeah, and even to go like back, you touched upon kind of the transition of, going from college, playing college sports every day to now you're, in the finance world, you're the youngest guys, yada, 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 all that stuff. That's also is, it's a confidence switch too, because you go from something that you've done your entire life to now, something
that's reactionary.
Completely, and it's something new. But back to that grind and building that confidence, the work that you put in is what builds that confidence kind of moving forward, and helps you be more comfortable with what you're doing and working towards.
But it's the same journey. It's
correct.
Learning the fundamentals,
yeah.
Right? Like, so in baseball, early on, you're learning the fundamentals of baseball, and you're thinking a lot about it because you're still learning the fundamentals. And then as you get older and progress through the leagues, from high school to college to professional or whatever, you are learning to react, right?
Yeah.
Just turn off the thoughts and react. Right. As soon as you make that switch, you're doing the same thing, but you're going back to the beginning where you're learning the fundamentals all over. You're learning the knowledge base. I've got to understand, what are people going to ask me, and what, how do I respond when somebody asks me this?
Yeah.
Right. And then as you get going in it, you build that confidence and you build that reactionary measure where you can just react.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, building that confidence, just once you have it, then you just, you flourish from there, really, by just continuing to grind, continuing to learn, and all of that continues to build into the confidence to, meet with people, be really confident about what you do. And then you're the guy. Then you're right back into like you were playing, but it's it's a different scenario, but it's back to the same thing.
But it's still, it's like, again, we keep coming back to these same scenarios, and this is what I think about too, is like you said earlier, is like having that confidence to say, oh, I don't, or being able to say like, I don't know, but I'll get you the answer as fast as I can. Like having the confidence to know you're not going to lose a client because of, right? I think
there's a level of respect with that too. Not being a know-it-all and not having the answer right then. Sometimes, obviously, you got to know what you're talking about. You got to know what you're doing. But not, nobody likes a know-it-all that thinks they know everything and is right about everything. So I think too, like, yeah, maybe I don't know this answer, but yeah, I'm gonna do my best. I having the resources and the people behind you to get that answer, and then getting right back to them, and that also builds a level of trust, a level of respect, and also kind of, I guess I don't know how to put it, but humbleness, I guess I don't know how to put that, but I think you know what I mean.
No, for sure. It whenever you humble yourself and show that you're a regular person, it makes a big difference with your clients. And I think I might have touched on this in a past episode, and well that this is something that I talk about. Listen, there's far too many people out there that, again, ego-wise, not confidence-wise, ego-wise, want to talk above their client. They want to sound super smart, so that their clients are like, oh my God, this person's so smart. Right?
Well, I think too, like it goes. I think it goes back to, not filling somebody with a bunch of BS. Like me personally, I would rather somebody shoot me straight than just fill my head with a bunch of BS. So I think sometimes too, I would rather stop and think about it and find the answer than give somebody the wrong answer and then have to go back on my word and be like, oh, by the way, I was wrong. This is what it is. I would rather say, okay, I might not know this. Let me find out and I'll get right back to you. And I think that way builds more trust between you and the other person. And like I said, I think it builds a level of respect and kind of humbleness as well, between, yourself and whoever you're working with. Yeah.
No, for sure. And then that's it. It's, we've got this battle going on from what we've talked about between confidence, ego, and humility.
Yeah.
Right. That's where it is. But, everything is about building that trust. Right. Whether it's sports, trust isn't talked about as much in sports, but it is still the coach trusting you in certain situations.
Yep.
Trusting you to get through it, trusting you to perform. Why is this guy still in the game? He's 0 for 3 tonight. Well, and then he comes through with a clutch hit or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I was watching a game last night where they went into extra innings, and the person that won the game, it was their first home run. They had a walk-off home run. It was their first home run of the year, and this is the second time I've seen it happen in 2 months, right? Where they're in extra innings and there's a walk-off home run by somebody that hadn't had a home run all year. But it's that trust that the coach has in that person, or the trust that you instill in your client that you're going to perform when the moment matters. Because that's what is important. I don't care if you can perform at home in front of the mirror. I don't care if you can perform in the backyard with your mom and dad watching. I care if you can perform at.
Yeah, no, that's a piece of it too. And just, again, I know we've talked about it, having people in your corner too that you can go to help you perform when it matters, help you build that knowledge. So it just kind of continues to build your confidence and prepare you for, whatever you're doing. Yeah.
It comes down to the two biggest things I talk about all the time is it's perspective and individuality, right? Like perspective of your internal perspective of yourself, how you see yourself. You have to see yourself as somebody that can get it done. But within that, you also have that outside perspective. How do other people see you? What do other people see when they see you, right? Do they see an ego? Do they see confidence? Do they see humility? Do they see trustworthiness? What do they see when they look at you? Yeah. Do they think that you're going to be able to perform in the moment? And when people work in sales a lot of the time, that's the thing that they miss, is that perspective of how other people see you. They work so hard on, well, what words should I say? What script should I use? What, closing technique? Should I use this or that, whatever, right? They work so hard on the word, so hard on the presentation. They don't think about how that person sees it. They don't think about the perception. And then they're like, well, why did I not close that?
Yeah, I think too is just being yourself.
Individuality. Absolutely.
Not being a robot. Not being a robot and just staying, talking to them talking to people like a regular person, like we are right now. No pressure, it's just two people having a conversation, and if it works out, great.
Well, let's throw somebody under the bus real quick, because I know this will make good content. But have we had that conversation with somebody before that like, hey, you can't guess what the person's going to say. Stop trying to prepare yourself on every single thing that you could possibly say in this conversation. Just be a human and have a conversation.
Yeah, for sure. We won't name names.
We won't name names. They might know who they are. But, that's the thing is some people want to over-prepare for things that don't matter. That is, again, buy your time back. Instead of trying to...
And that's even for not, you don't need to have all the world's answers to world's problems. You don't need that.
Yep.
It just comes back to, being yourself, especially with, what I do is the trust is the biggest thing. People trusting you to, do it, carry out their goals, carry out their retirement plan, whatever. So it's just having that humility, having the confidence in what you do, but also, you're not going to you might not be able to solve everything, or you might not know everything right now, but you'll you're going to work and you're going to figure it out.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's the confidence that they know that when it comes time, when there's an issue, you're going to be able to solve it. And that's the confidence. And that's the alignment of the internal and external perception, which I talk about. You guys know I talk about that alignment all the time. Me, internally, I know that no matter what situation I put myself in, I'm going to be able to figure it out. That alignment is that I have now built a trust with my client where now they see me in the same exact light. They say, no matter what happens, Josh is going to be able to figure it out. We trust Josh because we know no matter what, he's going to be able to figure it out and perform. I trust myself. Internally, I know now we're aligned. And you want to talk about true performance? That's when performance happens. When the internal and the external are aligned. That's what it's all about. It's about getting who you are internally, right? Your person, your identity, and being able to make people see that same thing. You can call it, being genuine, being transparent. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at it. I think that those things kind of lead you down a different path and don't help most people understand it properly. But in my opinion, it's the perspective, understanding how they see you and aligning those two. But in the individuality comes in because, again, you're not going to see yourself. Your perspective of you is going to be different than my perspective of you to begin with. So you have to understand who you are individually.
Yep. Yeah, no, everybody's different. You got to kind of find that, it's got to find that niche that clicks for you. But everything that we've talked about goes, almost for everybody as far as that grind part, how it looks, the confidence. Everybody has that. It just might look a little bit different. So it's just figuring out what works the best for you to, make it happen.
It's tailoring everything to your individuality.
Yeah,
absolutely. There are definitely overarching themes that are correct, right? And that can be used generally by everyone. However, what the problem is for most people is they don't know how to tailor it to them and their specific needs or their specific use case or their specific personality. And that's where most people get it wrong. I think the easiest example maybe is in fitness, where it says, hey, here's how you do this exercise.
Yep.
And yes, that might be a great exercise. But if you have certain range of motion issue, if you're limited for whatever reason, it might not be the best exercise for you because you can't extend fully like somebody else can because you have limited mobility. And you're going to think you're doing it wrong when you're not doing it wrong. You're doing it to the best of your ability. You just have limitations. That's your individuality. But then there's somebody like me that doesn't have any limited mobility and actually has extra mobility in my joint, where I've had an issue when I was playing competitive golf. I had a shoulder problem and I went to the orthopedist and he said, okay, raise your shoulder or raise your arm. And I did. And he goes, oh no, you're good. You have full range of motion. And I'm like, that's not my full range of motion.
Yeah.
My full range of motion is way further than that. It's just, I'm hurt now and this is my stopping point. And, it took someone else to come in and say, oh no, we get it now. We understand that you are limited by 20% currently. Your normal is beyond what most people's normal. And that's just because I wasn't built with a lot of cartilage in my joint. So I have extra mobility, which is a good and a bad thing. In certain situations, it's definitely a bad thing. But anything that requires stability in the joint, I'm done for. I ain't got no stability. There ain't nothing to hold it in there, right? I can pop out easily. And so for me, the proper way to do that same exercise may look differently than the proper way for you to do that exercise with limited mobility, right? And it's about tailoring it. And that's where that team comes in, is having somebody that can tailor something to you specifically versus just looking on Google and taking it with a grain of salt and being like, okay, or not taking it with a grain of salt, actually. I don't know what the opposite of that is, but saying, okay, well, I have to do exactly like Google says.
Yeah.
Because that's going to hurt you. Taking the general ideas and not applying it to your individuality is going to hurt.
Yeah, it's taking bits and pieces of, obviously you want to try and learn, outside of just what, you want to keep learning, but it's also taking things with a grain of salt and piece by piece and just taking little tidbits from people, not copying everybody because they have their own way of doing it, and putting your own kind of spin on it, and making it your own. It's the same. It's the same way with like you said. It's the same way with sports. Every guy's different. Even pitching wise, hitting wise, shooting. Everybody's a little bit different. You got nobody shoot that. Not everybody shoots like Sean Marion. Not everybody's shooting like that. So it's like everybody's different, but that worked for him. So it's like there's a fine line between just buying into everything, and you just got to take it little tidbits and make it your own and what works for you, based off of your strengths, your skill set, and then having other people. Surrounding yourself with other people to help you in those other areas that you might not be good at.
Dude, that's exactly what it is. It's being able to understand that what somebody else is trying to teach is their way of doing it, and you have to understand how to apply it. Like, I was watching a video the other day about hitting, and they were saying the same thing. Is like there's very few hitting coaches that understand the difference between all of these different philosophies and can apply it to you. And it's the same thing in golf, which is my forte. There's the swing coaches like the old stack and tilt guys who every one of their players swung the exact same way. They said, this is how you swing a golf club. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is the exact way you do it. And if you deviate, like if you went to them, you were going to swing their swing. That's what they believe. But then, and they're gone. They don't exist anymore. Nobody uses that no more. It's gone. It was a fad, and it was gone. But then you have guys like Butch Harmon that have been around forever, that have had players whose swings are completely different, but he knows how to take their swing and tweak it to make it a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's similarities in everyone's mechanics.
Right.
But overall, they could be completely different. But there's certain, like even with pitching, like there's certain things that you're looking at when you're breaking stuff down that just about everybody gets into as far as like a position when they're throwing. But it might look completely different when you look at it in real time versus somebody else. So if you're trying to copy your mechanics in real time off somebody like that, somebody like Randy Johnson, who threw a completely different, threw gas, but him trying to teach his style of pitching might not work for somebody else. If it's just it's filtering out the fluff, and getting into, okay, what are the similarities between everybody, and implementing that stuff into your own craft.
What's crazy,
the rest of it just takes over.
In the society of today, this is it's so funny to me, and what inspired me to work on coaching people and teaching people was, in the society that we live in, the fluff is what people buy.
Yeah.
It does nothing for them, but people want to buy the fluff. If you don't have...
It's the same thing it's the same thing in finances. The big sexy investments, a lot of them don't work out. You go with your straight boring stuff, and that's the person that's making money.
Hey, there's that PNC commercial. There's a PNC commercial now that's like, we're boring. Boring is what makes everything run, or something like that, right?
That added fluff of the guy, promising 18%, or this company's the next big. Like, it happens sometimes, but a lot of it's just fluff. And you can go on the internet, and there's, you're going to get million different opinions on things, and it's just really filtering out that fluff aspect of it and getting down to, okay, what is actually true, what actually works.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what it is there's so much And I guess it kind of comes back to that same thing we were talking about earlier with the salesperson, right? The salesperson wants to talk up here so you think they're smart.
Yeah.
Oh, here's why it's worth paying me specifically, is because I am so smart. I'm up here. I know everything. You could never do it on your own. You could never do it on your own. How dare you think you could do it on your own? Because I'm so smart. You have to do me. I got to do it. I'm smart. Remember? Whereas there's somebody that's genuine, that's actually going to help somebody accomplish what they want to help, that is able to take it down and say, listen, I don't know everything, but I can figure it out.
Yeah.
That's the secret sauce. That's the superpower, is the being able to figure it out part, or being able to relate it to everybody, right? Like, you could ask me how to be an elite athlete in Zimbabwe. I don't know. I've never been to Zimbabwe, but I can figure it out because I can help you fine-tune things and simplify, because I don't believe in the flow. I just dropped an F-bomb 10 minutes ago because I'm a straight shooter and I don't care what comes out of my mouth. I'm unapologetically me. And like, the fluff doesn't matter. What matters is the results, and getting to those results as fast as possible in the right way so that you can then do it yourself, right? Again, a lot of coaches want to be coaches and have you stay with them, rely on them, right? Like, but if you can't perform when they're not there, what good was the coaching?
Yeah.
You've got to understand, you've got to be taught how to rely on yourself. Simplify, clarity, understanding perspective, understanding individuality and who you are. Those are the things that are going to actually get you that.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like, let's go, into sports, it's the same, like, practice is where you're working on the stuff, in that grind phase, you're doing all that. But once the game hits, forget all that. Just play. And the rest will just kind of carry over. The work that you've put in, all of that will just kind of take care of itself. Don't be worrying about, all right, am I opening up with my front side too early? Do I need to stay closed half a second here? Or where was my fingertip on that? Like, just play, just forget about it. And the work that you put in to get to that point will just naturally take over.
And that's the problem with the fluff.
Yeah.
The fluff, you can't get rid of all of it. When you have all that crap going on in your mind that you're thinking about, how do I overcome this objection? How do I overcome this objection? How do I open my presentation? How do I lead my presentation into upsells? How do I do this? How do I do that? Blah, 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 blah. Instead of just getting in there, understanding I'm here to do my purpose, which is your individual purpose, your identity, what you define yourself, and having a conversation, being a human being. Being in that moment, whether it's from a leadership standpoint with an employee, from a sales standpoint with a client, doesn't matter where it's coming. When you're in the moment, be in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Too late. Too late to work. Too late to work it out. Too late to grind it out.
Well, yeah, at that point, it's too late.
It's you have to be in the moment. If you want to perform well, you have to be in the moment. Period.
Yeah.
Because the other person is going to be able to see you sitting there thinking. And it's not going to come off as anything other than like that you're not present. So again, that external perception, internal and external, internally you might be thinking, oh man, how do I make this person like me? How do I make this person, want to do business with me? How do I make this person want to follow me and trust me as a leader? And they're thinking like, this person doesn't give two shits about what I'm saying because look at them. But it's because they're sitting there panicking in their head, thinking about fluff A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to beyond Z, right? They're going through all this checklist of crap in their head and they can't perform. You got to get out of your own way. You've got to just be in the moment and be present and do it. When it's time to do it, do it.
Yeah, let it, naturally it'll take over. I know we talked about not being a robot earlier. It's the same thing. It's not thinking about all that stuff and just doing it. If it goes bad, it's, you probably didn't prepare before that, in the grind, like, the grind phase of not doing that work to help your confidence and prepare you for that. So you just got to kind of let it take over naturally and just in the moment and forget all the extra stuff. Yeah.
It's about I think the easiest way is like go back to that same scenario we were talking about earlier where somebody's trying to figure out every response that might could happen. And they're saying, I'm not ready yet because I haven't gone over every response. I've only gone over 97 responses out of 100, right? And it's that same person that wants to over-prepare that then comes back and says, hey, well, they said this. What should I say next? Too late.
Yeah.
And that is the problem with all of that worrying and fluff and trying to prepare in the wrong way is that when you get in the moment, you're looking for the perfect answer or looking for the perfect result because you've gone and said, okay, well, here's how I should do this. You've written rules for yourself. When they say this, say this. When they say this, say this. When they say this, say this, right? You've written rules. You've programmed your mind.
That kind of
has to be done. Yeah.
Creates limitations within what you're doing.
Creates limitations.
Yeah.
Because you've created these rules. When they say this, say this. When they say this, say this. And it doesn't allow for any interpretation. It doesn't allow for any individuality. It doesn't allow for, like, the other person. It doesn't, okay, well, what if you've programmed yourself that when they say one, say this. When they say two, say this. And the person says 1.5.
Yeah. Or they don't say.
You're done.
Like they say -1 and it's not there. You're like, oh, I don't know.
Doesn't compute. Does not compute. Does not compute. And you panic and it's done. Right. And it could be something that could be a sales scenario where, and I've seen it happen when somebody goes into a spot and is like, all right, do you want to spend $1,000 or $2,000? And the person says $1,500. And the salesperson's like, and they don't know what to do. And it's like, you are blowing a sale right now. Say, okay, great. And even if you don't know how to make 1,500 work, start the closing process. And when you're not in the moment right there in front of them, then you can take the time to breathe and figure out how to make 1,500 work.
Yeah.
But don't get in your own way. And that's what happens is you get in your own way when you program certain responses into yourself. You program these things just like a computer, right? It's got lines of code that it has to follow. AI is the same way. It's got lines that it has to follow. And if it can get in its own way because it doesn't know how to interpret the in-between. It doesn't know how to read between them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's everything we've talked about. Individuality, putting the work in, having the confidence, and that helps get over that kind of, the robot kind of hurdle. And kind of, just following a script and not being yourself, not being your own individual person, and kind of relating to people. It takes that out. So just back to that grind phase, the preparation, the work that you put in all leads you into, having success when that time comes and just having it naturally kind of take over in sports and business with really whatever you're doing.
It goes back. So let's go baseball again for one last, bring it home point. You always have to be able to pivot. No matter how much you study, you've always got to be able to pivot because the human factor of who you're going against, whether, again, doesn't matter if you're in leadership, the employee is a human. If you're a salesperson, the client is a human. There's always going to be a human error, or there's always going to be the human aspect that you cannot anticipate. Sports, your opponent is a human. There's something you can't expect. I was watching a video, Trevor Bauer, the other day. People know I like talking about Trevor Bauer because he's controversial and it's funny. But he's showing a video the other day of an at bat. He goes against a guy that he's known for a long time. He's pitched against him several times. And he goes into the at bat thinking this dude swings first pitch every time I've ever faced him. And he throws first pitch, and dude doesn't swing. And now he's like thrown off.
Yeah.
He's like, this guy's got to swing at the second pitch, because if he didn't swing at the first pitch, he's definitely swinging at the second.
Yeah.
He's always swinging at the first pitch, right? And it threw off the entire first at bat because he didn't swing first pitch. Because I know for a fact that he's going to swing first pitch.
Yeah.
Right? And then he goes into the second at bat with this against the same guy. And he's, well, he didn't swing first pitch last time. He's got to swing first pitch this time. And he didn't swing first pitch that time either. And right?
That guy did his homework. He knew he swung first pitch every time. So he's like, I'm not doing it.
That's right. Right. And that's what it is. It's, you have to be able to adapt. Or same thing, like let's say you go into an at bat as a pitcher or a hitter or whatever, and you know that the sequence should be fastball, curveball, or fastball, slider, changeup, whatever. And you saw fastball, and then you swung at slider, and the pitcher's like, man, he wasn't even close on that slider. I know I'm supposed to throw changeup now, but I'm about to throw slider again because that fool he had no shot at touching that slider. And now you throw a slider, and you get him out because you're able to adapt. Whereas sometimes we overthink and overcomplicate things, and we're like, we try to stick to the script, like you said, stick to the script too much. And you throw a fastball, and you throw a slider, and then he's behind both of those pitches, and then you throw something even slower, and you as the pitcher let him win because you went towards what he was doing.
Then you're just becoming predictable, and it doesn't go. Yeah.
You're going into what they want, right, at that point. And that's the same thing is when you're not reading the situation and you're just relying on a script, that's not peak performance.
Yeah.
Peak performance is reactionary. You prep, and then you become in the moment.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You prep as best you can. And you know, I've said it a bunch of times, you just let that kind of natural ability, everything that you know and you've prepared for, it just naturally takes over.
Perfect. That's yeah. I mean, that's what it is. You know, we can beat a dead horse 47 more times.
Yeah, I know I've seen it a lot.
No, and that's what I do. I mean, if you watch the podcast back, you know, I use the same exact things over and over again because they're true. But you also see it come up with other people, right? Everybody ends up saying the same thing in their own way. It's all the same thing. It's just a different perspective of looking at it, right? And that's why I have people from all over the country and all different walks of life, because it's the same. They're all saying the same secrets, but they're saying it a little bit different way.
Yeah.
Different sports, different fields of business, whatever. They all see it a different. That's what's important, is that you see it a different way and you understand it can be adapted to any. Your approach will be okay as long as you adapt it in the right way. But, man, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to jump on here today. One more time, just tell everybody who you are, where they can find you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, name's Cameron Graham, financial advisor for Northern Alliance Financial. Also do some baseball coaching, but you can find me on Twitter, Instagram. Look up our website, northernalliancefinancial.com, and yeah, check us out.
Perfect. We'll get all those links down in the description as well, so to make it easy on everybody. But everybody, stay tuned. You know, next week's going to be another banger. And yeah, we're just going to continue this grind to get better, and let's go.